Story is Abuela's Weave by Omar Castaneda. Pull back hard, Abuela said. Make it jolt so that the threads stay close, like family. Yes, Abuela. Esperanza thrust the bolt through the open weaver and pulled the bar down with all of her might. Next to her, Esperanza's grandmother, her abuela, also kneeled in front of the backstrap loom. Both looms were tied to the same tree, and it was in the middle of the family compound. Esperanza's mother fed the chickens and pigs behind the main thatch hut, while her father was off with her brothers in the fields of corn, beans, and coffee. You're learning, Abuela said. Esperanza looked at her grandmother out of the corner of her eye. She knew that Abuela was nervous about the market. Her mother said that the hulpis and the tapestries Abuela made could pull the wonder right out of people. But these days, more and more goods were being made by machines. Esperanza worried that the people would tease Abuela about her birthmark, as some of the kids had once done. They had started a rumor that she was a witch, and that now many people were frightened to buy things from her. There's a little birthmark on Abuela's face. Are you daydreaming again? Abuela asked. Yes, Abuela. Well, the old woman said gruffly, get busy, because there are too few days left, and you still have lots of work to do, and there will be many other people selling the same things that you have. Don't worry, Abuela. I'll be busy until we leave. And she was. Esperanza and her grandmother worked from the early morning, even before the sun rose, and well past the sunset, when the moon rose and the compound fire gave everything the rich smell of pine. They showed no one their work, not even Esperanza's mother, because it was a special thing that they wove, and they wanted to wait for the Fiesta de Pueblos in Yat to reveal it. Soon the day arrived. Bright with sun, the leaves glistening from the previous night's rain, it seemed like a good omen for Esperanza and her grandmother. Abuela appeared disguised as a woman in mourning. Dressed in black, she wrapped a long black shawl around her shoulders, across her face, so that only her eyes would show to the world. Esperanza, however, wore her favorite hulpi. It was a white blouse with red and blue-green colors that bled into the silver and blue, and hidden within it was an intricate design of the blouse, were tiny quetzals flying freely in the thread, the way they once flew in the great forests of Guatemala. She carried on her head a large straw basket, full of hulpis, tablecloths, skirts, and a special tapestry. Esperanza walked steadily down the dirt avenue of Santa Cruz to get to the highway where they went to Gat. The bus would pick them up and take them the rest of the way. Abuela walked several paces behind. She insisted that they pretend that they did not know each other. This way, if my birthmark frightens customers away, they will still buy from you, Abuela said. When the bus came, Abuela did not even help lift the heavy basket to the boys who strapped bags onto the roof of the bus. And inside, they sat 3 seats apart, as if they were strangers, people living in different villages, people with no ancestors in common. And when they arrived, the noise of the city was deafening. Large buses roared down the narrow streets, emanating clouds of black fumes. Horns blasted and people hurried roughly down the sidewalks. Esperanza wanted more than anything to get off of the Sexta Avenue, where people jammed the walkways and hawkers yelled from their shops, or from the hundreds of carts blocking the sidewalks and the streets. She felt trapped. Her lungs ached from the automobile and bus fumes, and her ears rang with the sound of the screeching brakes, horns, shouting, and whistles from the policemen. Esperanza walked off quickly, the basket steady on her head, her mind trying to focus away from the commotion and onto the stalls set up for the fiesta in the Parque Central. She walked furiously, zigging and zagging to get down to the Avenida Ocho, or the Septima Avenida, where the noise was less, where she suddenly stopped to see if Abuela was still following behind her. She looked for a familiar face among the bobbing heads, the baskets, the helmets, and the hats. She wanted to catch just a sight of her grandmother's shawl, like a blackbird hopping from branch to branch in a forest of people. But she could not find her. Esperanza continued on to the market, hoping Abuela would be eventually there and would help her find her way amongst all the merchants. Now the stalls were already filled when Esperanza arrived. Old men and women nearby shooed her away or ignored her when she asked them for help. At last, all she could do was set her basket beside the narrow slats of two stalls. On one side, a family from Antigua sold pottery, reproductions of the Mayan crafts, and clothing loomed in one of the many factories. The woman on the other side sold long bolts of cloth, musical instruments, and decorative bags. The bags all had zippers machined in the capital, and long handles of colorful plastic. Everything was beautiful, Esperanza thought. She thought that no one would buy anything from her. She and her grandmother would return to Santa Cruz with no money, the long hours wasted, and the family disappointed. She was so nervous. Esperanza sadly took out her wares to hang them one by one on the long splinters in the slat wood on either side. Oh, she felt terribly alone. Even her poor abuelita was nowhere to be seen. People slowly noticed, though. They pointed at the elaborate weaving. Tourists and the Guatemalans alike drew close to her tiny place. They looked up with wonder at the beautiful work in front of them. A large tapestry blossomed with images of Guatemala. Esperanza and Abuela had worked on the intricate symbols of the country's history. There were heroines and heroes inspired by the glorious Popolo Vuh, the sacred book of the Maya. And in one corner, a beautiful Quetzal seemed to watch over it all from within a white cage. In Esperanza's hands, the tapestry's colors shone as brightly as the sun over the Guatemalan lake of Antiguan. People turned from the commercial stalls to stand before Esperanza's complex. When she looked up, Esperanza saw Abuela with her smile across her birthmarked face. It didn't take long for all of her work to be sold that day, and the people were disappointed when all was gone. But Esperanza promised to return with new things in the following month. And on the way back to Santa Cruz, grandmother and granddaughter sat side by side. Esperanza's smooth and nimble fingers held tightly into her abuela's wrinkled